Hi, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nate Lilia here, taking a look at your tropical update for June 6th of 2020, brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. Usually we don't do these on the weekend necessarily, but you're going to get one because we've got Tropical Storm Cristobal out there. Now, a wide view shows that there is another area of concern. There's kind of two of them. One of them is already getting ripped apart, so it's not really much of a concern anymore. The other one is up around Bermuda. But the main story for today is obviously Cristobal, which is moving toward the Gulf Coast, moving to the north at about 10 to 12 miles an hour, wind at 50, gusting to 65, pressure down to 994. But you can tell that this thing is ugly. It's kind of embedded in a wider trough. It doesn't really have a core area of convection around the main area of circulation. Which means that this is going to be a lopsided storm, so the folks on the east side are going to get pegged with a whole mess of rain, wind, and the threat for maybe a couple of tornadoes, while the folks on the east, a lot like when Hurricane Nate came through, are going to get some wind gusts and a little bit of rain, and that's about it. So the cone takes this thing into Louisiana, a little bit closer to home. You can see that the center, that's all the cone talks about, is the center of the storm is going to pass by to our west, leaving us on the east side, which is why we're so concerned about very heavy rain, very gusty wind, and the possibility for some brief tornadoes. All right, FUTURECAST taking things through. Showing by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, just cloud cover and a couple of showers out there. Then the main rain bands start to move through as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. And then it looks like maybe a little bit of a lull, but that's usually what happens with rain bands. For you folks that are maybe new to the Gulf Coast, you get a little rain band that moves through, then a break, then another rain band, then a break, then a rain band, then a break. Notice that the heaviest of rain moves into New Orleans as this thing makes landfall somewhere around Morgan City, according to FUTURECAST here, at around 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then slides to the north overnight. But notice it doesn't, it's not really in a big hurry. Between about 7 o'clock landfall and about 7, 8 o'clock the next morning, 12 hours to go from about Morgan City to about Alexandria. So it's, once it gets ashore, it's not going to be a very quick mover. Then we deal with an afternoon of rain around here before we clear things out into the evening. How much rain are we talking about? We'll get to that here in a second. First, I want to talk about the wind, because you add the wind to the rain, and that's why we're concerned about maybe having some trees come down. You can see an east wind or an east-northeast wind at about 5 to 15, gusting to probably about 20 miles an hour as we head through the morning on Sunday into the afternoon. We flip things around to the east, about 10 to 20. Then as we head into the overnight hours, that's when we start to flip winds back around to the southeast, upwards of 15 to 25 in a lot of places, gusting to about 30 to 35. And then as we head through the day on Monday, we'll continue to hold on to about a 15 to 25 mile an hour wind, and then things calm down as that thing moves out. So the interesting thing to note there, notice that there were no hurricane force wind. There was barely even tropical storm force wind. So this is not going to be a wind system for us. It's going to be a rain system. And a lot of the guidance this morning actually has come back and shown that the main peg of rain may be off to our, just barely, but maybe off to our west. Take a look at the rainfall totals from the European model, showing just 1 inch of rain for you folks in Quitman, 1.1 in Waynesboro, but upwards of 5, almost 5 inches for you folks in Tylertown. Let me say this. Usually I say with these things, well, you got to take these with a grain of salt, but I'll say this. I'm starting to get a little more confident that that streak is going to be across either some of our western counties or just outside of our area, because this was the European model. Okay. Well, what is the GFS, the American model? Well, it shows it a little bit closer to us, sure, but it still has that main peg of rain either across our western counties or outside of our area, with you folks across some of our eastern counties, Waynesboro, Quitman, State Line, Leakesville, only getting 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rain through all of this. Okay, well, what about the RPM? Same thing. It shows it just off to our west. So for you folks across some of our eastern counties, unless the track shifts a little bit, you folks may end up with only 1 to 3, maybe 4 inches of rain, while other folks get 4 to 5 to 6 to 8 to 12 inches of rain, with the heaviest rain totals probably down around New Orleans and then closer to the Mississippi coastline. So given that, here's your potential. This hasn't changed, really. In fact, I talked about during the 10 o'clock news last night, I said, I may need to change this as we get through tomorrow, but after looking at some of the data, I think this is going to hold. So this is the forecast that we've had now for the last 36 hours, and I tend to think that it's probably going to hold. Heavy rain at times everywhere. Wind gusts to 30 miles an hour everywhere. We saw the wind, we saw the rain. That makes sense. a lot of folks are going to see heavy rain at times with wind gusts up to 40 miles an hour. That's sustained wind at 15 to 25, maybe 30 miles an hour, but wind gusts to 40. For you folks, in many spots, you're going to end up with more than an inch of rain, more than 2 inches of rain. Some places are going to get up to 5 inches of rain. You guys can see wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour, and we can't rule out the possibility for brief tornadoes as well, because we're on the east side of this storm. And then a few spots are going to see up to 8 inches of rain, probably mainly across some of our western counties. Wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour with sustained winds up to maybe 35. And we can't rule out the possibility for a brief and weak tornado. Again, EF0s and EF1s are generally what we get with landfalling tropical systems. So there's a look at your tropical update for Cristobal as it moves ashore. Brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters and Remodeling.